I am back. I was on vacation for 3 weeks, turned into a month. I haven't posted here in a while, and I thought, well, it's about time. And what I am really into right now is talking about the purpose of marriage. Because, and before we go further, this is for you if you are going through a tough season in your marriage, or you're experiencing a test or a moment of disconnection, or your spouse isn't doing something that you want them to do, or doesn't look like they're taking your marriage growth as seriously as you are. Maybe you're feeling a little bit sorry for yourself. This is for you. This is for me. This is for everyone. This is not only for marriage relationships, but this is also for relationships just in general. We are taught by our culture that marriage is some place that you go to live happily ever after. And for those of you who have been married for some time, you know that this is a lie. You don't just do all your work trying to find the perfect partner. And then once you find the perfect partner, that's then when everything is just rainbows and sunshine. And this unrealistic expectation that our culture places on marriage, I'm sure accounts for many, many, many divorces, because it's what your thoughts about marriage, that when you go into it, that's going to create this big dreamlike imaginary world. And when that doesn't come true, you not only wonder what's wrong with your marriage, but more importantly, what's wrong with your spouse. And then secondarily, what's wrong with you, but more so what's wrong with your spouse, if you're really if we're being honest about it, because then people would not remarry if this were the case, if they really looked at themselves. So here's what I believe about the purpose of life, because we got to look there first. The purpose of life, as a very universal concept, is to develop as a human being, to grow, to become more caring, more compassionate, more understanding, to fight the battle against our ego, which serves to disconnect us from each other, that serves to protect us. Protection isn't a bad thing, but that's when anger and frustration and defensiveness and criticism come out. So if the purpose of marriage, if the purpose of life is to grow as a human being, to become stronger, to develop those muscles, that eventually leads to more happiness, more contentment, more joy, more enthusiasm, more flexibility, more understanding, really more personal fulfillment and satisfaction. Then in that context, what is the purpose of marriage? I don't think it's any different. I think marriage is simply a laboratory in which we can do that people growing work that we need to do in ourselves, which is the purpose of life, which is vastly different from the happily ever after scenario that we've been taught and fed. Disney movie after Disney movie, romantic comedy after romantic comedy, romance novel after romance novel that is in our culture. So from that context, if we can look at marriage through that frame, then what happens when we're going through a challenging season in our marriage, a challenging test? How do we look at it? If we look at it from the romantic view of happily ever after, we get really frustrated and dissatisfied and blamey and criticizing because marriage is not fulfilling its promise. If we look at it from the perspective that marriage is a laboratory for us in which to fulfill our purpose in life, which is to grow as human beings, it becomes an opportunity. And I've experienced this many times, not only in my marriage, but also in other relationships as well. It is the harder road. short term, but not the harder road in the long term. Because the harder road in the long term is to place your happiness and satisfaction in the hands of other people. And when you do that, all you can do really is blame other people for what you're going through, which becomes disempowering, not very happy, not very fulfilling, not very satisfying. So how can you, in whatever circumstance you're in right now, see opportunities for personal growth and development? Let's take your spouse or the person you're in a relationship completely out of the picture. It's not about changing them or having them do anything different, or why did they, or blaming or ruminating over things they said or did, or telling that story to yourself and to other people again and again and again. We've all been there before. When I was going through the biggest test of my marriage, I had to almost minute by minute tell myself, this is a test sent to me from my own perfecting. This is a test sent to me for my own perfecting. How was I going to grow? What choices was I going to make? How was I going to take responsibility for the situation that I found myself in? How was I going to rise up to a higher level of consciousness than I had been previously? I know it's super cliche, but it works. How was I going to use this for a stepping stone for my own personal growth and happiness? So that is what I challenge you to do if you're in this situation with your partner or with somebody else you're in a relationship with. What is this growth opportunity here in front of you? How will you become more compassionate, more understanding, more patient? What will you change about your character? How have you contributed to this dynamic in your relationship? How can you be happy for somebody even when it feels like a detriment to your own happiness? And I know from experience, this is the happily ever after of marriage. When two people can mature and grow and become more self-reflective, this is when marriage becomes phenomenal. And I'm not saying that I've reached that stage in my marriage just yet, but I am getting a glimmer of it, a taste of it, which is extremely exciting. And I want that for you too, as well. So good luck with this challenge. Let me know how it goes, and I will be thinking of you. Talk to you later.